I have just a simple introduction to give, a simple story to tell. I started a small press for literary translation, and Mohsen Mohamed is actually the second Egyptian poet that we've published. The first was Mohamed Metwali, and I had a favor to ask of Mohsen's translator, Sherine Elbanhawy. We needed to find someone to write a review, and I had a solicitation to make. So first I wanted to try to understand who she was and what her work was. And I found a translation of hers that had been published in Arab Lit Quarterly. It was a poem called On the Bursh After Dinner by Mohsen Mohamed. And it was everything I'd been looking for as a publisher and everything I'd been longing for. It was something made of truth, simplicity, and humanity, what we most need models for in this day and age, in my humble opinion. I would never have been able to experience it if Sherine hadn't found a way to convey it in its fullness in English, which is what a literary translator can do. From this poem, it was obvious that there had been great pain, but it was also plain that love and fellow feeling had transformed it. So I give you Mohsen Mohamed and Sherine Elbanhawy.
Thank you.
So would you like to start, Sherine?
I think you should.
Hello, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here, and I'm really grateful for Nina and Sherine and everyone. I didn't prepare for any presentation. I will just speak friendly about my story and how did I went to go to prison, and my story in the prison with poetry. And first, I want to ask you to excuse my English if I like long or like for if I search for a word or thing, but because I just learned English in the past 2 years, and it was all self-learning in the UK. I was 19 years old in the university when I started my education. Was like in commerce in Mansoura University, and this was after the revolution, 2011 revolution. I was going with my friends to the university, and then I saw someone beating a girl in the ground, and I tried to just protect her and to ask him why you're beating her. And then everything started from there, and then they arrested me, and then I disappeared in the prison for 5 years. That was very like in big shock in the beginning, but after this, I found like a whole life that people gather together, have meaning for their life. They like the older people in the prison that been months and months, they have like a coping mechanism that they gather together and read and write and discuss ideas, and they have this kind of like wider field of being for everyone, not only for one person or individual. It was like everyone in the four walls, and they are they're making the life easy for each other, and they have there was like professors, there was like students, many students, and they used to do classes every day and night, and people from the other cells come to attend, and everyone is like telling his stories and his life and experiences in life, and people and students go and listen to. And that was like a very different thing that I have never imagined that will happen to me, because I wasn't involved in any protest, because I was like 19 years old, and yeah, and I found myself just implicit in the situation, and with like thousands of people in my same situation. They're like, I found people that the same thing. They just like arbitrary were taken over to the prison, and there was like 10 guys, 10 persons and students in my same age. There was in my case in the same case of the in the prison, and they were with me for 5 years in the prison. Then I started to ask myself why I'm here and when I'll go out, and all this question or normal question. And then I found out that actually people are here for very long time, and they getting every day they getting adjusted to the situation and to the prison. And I was asking myself, actually, is it adjusting to the prison is a good thing or a bad thing? Because it's not normal. It's like okay, if I get adjusted, that means I'm killing like my desires, my hope for freedom, and all of this. Would I be able to just keep those desires and life inside me alive while I'm coping and adjusting to the prison? And I was thinking, and I even wrote like a verse of a poem. I said, ما تأقلموش على السجن بس تأقلموا على إنهم ما تأقلموش, which like the beginning of a poem, which means we get adjusted and we co-op to not co-oping, like this situation of not co-oping into the prison. We co-op to this kind of process. Like we don't co-op to the prison because no one does. Everyone just have sometimes like fear or face questions. But we co-op for to not co-oping actually this situation of not co-oping the prison. And then I started to write poetry. I found the poetry like a good mean to take me to the freedom and to have this relation with freedom. And I think after I go out, I found that the freedom that I longed for a long time, with a very exaggerated feeling about the freedom and this connection between me and freedom and desiring every day. When I go out, I found that the freedom is not as beautiful as I was dreaming of it. And I think this like relation is like very huge and intensive feelings inside the prisoners. They are longing for a long time for freedom, and that suddenly they just get released, and then they found that actually, yeah, freedom is beautiful, and they just engage and experience it with their bodies, with everything, but it's still it's like it loses its meaning. Anyway, I realized also that prison doesn't stop when I like the experience doesn't stop when I get released. It perpetuates itself, and it remains with me after in the life world. And I think I was very okay with and fine with telling my stories to everybody, like everyone in the life, to just share this experience as if I was like killing it by telling it to people and share it with others. But after 2 years, I found that actually I have to stop this and I have to focus on the life, because prison is like part of my life and part of my journey, and it's not my whole journey. And then when I write poetry, I write anything, I write about prison and about other subjects in life as well. And other, like, my good part of my identity is a prison, but other things that I write about as well. And then I started to think differently about the prison. I put it in a box, like a Pandora box, and I left it for like with me, and just integrating with people without telling them anything. And then I was watching a movie for like at night, and then I picked this Egyptian old movie about the prison in purpose, and I remember it's called إحنا بتوع الأتوبيس. which means we are the we are the people of the boss. It has a story in Egypt, in Egypt, and a very very famous film. And then, which means we are innocent. We are very innocent. We are here in a prison, but we are innocent. We didn't do anything for the government or for anyone else. And then I remember this phrase when one of my colleagues, one of my inmates in prison, said it the first day we were in the police station. And then that night, I just like opened my laptop and watched the movie, and I felt that I am lost somehow when the movie took me inside the feelings and situation and this intimacy between me and this life. I felt that actually I am longing for this life. I have kind of tenderness to it. While I was like for a year, I was escaping from it. And I asked myself, why do I escape from prison? And why do I feel tenderness to it? And then I realized that actually this experience is not clear as I was thinking, and it's like ambiguous, and it really needs to be thinking of and to be studied. And I thought of identity. I thought of the prison as a detachment like there is a detachment between life and prison. And the stories that I used to tell and the narrative tries to bridge this distance between the two sides of detachment. And while I grow between this distance, my identity grows in both ways. Like part of my identity is the prison, and the other part is the identity of me living with people that actually I can tell them my stories, but my stories in prison, but I don't know the reaction. I don't know how they feel, because I do not want sympathy. I do not want feeling a hero, like treating me as if I was hero, because I think in the Arabic prison literature there is accumulated texts and novels and stories that speak in the same thing, the same theme. It's like it's as if one story from the 60s or the 50s until now, which we go to the prison, we suffer the being inside four walls from a political aspect. And I think political aspect encroach the other aspects, or the most important, which is the existential aspect of the experience. How I am as an individual, how I go to the prison, what does it mean actually, the prison, and what happens inside the prison for me as an individual, and that changes after I go out of the prison. And I think this one of the most important questions that could make the experience understood. And I think there is lake in it in the Arab literature, and maybe in the other languages and literatures as well. And I think narrative is one of the good things to start with this question, to answer this question, narrative, because I think storytelling and narratives could change the reality, and could change the events that happened in silence and passivity. For me, I am interested still in writing poetry about the prison, but also I am facing questions that it has to stop for a while until I understand what the prison is. And also I'm interested in the prison, not as a prison itself, but as a factory that has that produce a character in the society outside the prison that is ambiguous and peculiar society, peculiar character in the society that everyone wonders who is this person or what is the prisoner, the former prisoner, and I think that will help them help the two process of detachment to just approximate or to bring them together to make it more clear and obvious for the literature. And I think there is like much more in the prison itself, like in my journey in the prison, that how actually I co-op with the prison. This whole question is, for me, I remind myself actually in life when I face difficulties in life, I remind myself of those like vigor feeling and those kind of very strong emotions that I used to have in prison, and then I face these difficulties in life. One of the coping mechanisms in the prison were reading, writing, being surrounded by people that we have never imagined that I will be with them, because everyone comes from different background, different city, different perspective, different religion, for example, different way of thinking. And then we gather together, we become more than a family, and we become like very close and like a family, and we miss each other when we go to other prisons and we come again. We have our life. And then poetry, and also I was very interested in knowing about the prison experience while I was in the prison itself. I started to read and to bring books about the experience that talks about the experience, like and understand the meaning of the experience and of time in the time and space time and space and body in the experience. But one of the most significant I read, for example, the experience that written the prison experiences in 16 and 17s in Egypt and it is as well. And then I've read the Viktor Frankl. He was incarcerated in like in Auschwitz, and he wrote he was incarcerated for 5 years, and he wrote a book called Man Search for Meaning. And I found his book very interesting, because it gives me the same feeling of my of my thoughts about narrative and this detachment, because he said time in prison, like he was talking about time in prison, and he said this amazing quote: "The day in prison seems longer than the week in prison," which I was experience it myself, and I was thinking about it. And I think after, like in my reading as well, I found the Thomas Mann who wrote the Golden Mountain. The time was the character of the novel, and he was explaining actually how time gets shorter and longer by the experience of the place and the movements and the motion in the spaces. And then he said that the routine and the monogamy, the routine and the repetitive events make the life short, make the time very short, pass very short. But this apply only for the short period of time or unit of, like small unit of time, not the bigger one. So when I was in the solitary, for example, the solitary cell, I felt the time pass very short, very slow, and then after a week, when the week passes in this solitary cell, I felt that it was short, because it was just only 1 week, and I found really that the day really is longer than the week. in prison, and this is not normal in life, in the sense of time, and also the sense of our bodies are not normal, and all of this. But anyway, I was like in this solitary cell, or with I tried also to find the time, and to try to grasp the time, because the cell is absolutely like 100% dark most of the day, and you don't know where you are during the day. And then there was only one sign that tells me the clock exactly was 1 or 1:30 when the surgeon comes and open the door to give me some food. And then after this, I keep the food, I keep the food with me during the day. And the other 5 signs are the calling for prey. I try to grasp where I am. If I sleep, if I sleep during the day, for example, and then I woke up, I hear the calling for prey, so I knew it's now 10 p.m. So I have to wake up. And there was also some people around me in the same solitary cells, like it's like some certain cells next to each other, and we talk to each other, tell each other stories, and even make fun of ourselves and laugh, to just let the time pass, and try to be intimate, and to change the time. And I remember actually, I told a friend of mine who was in a cell next to me. I told him, would you like to just stay awoke until the morning? And he told me, well, but how would we know that the morning comes? Because we have to stay until 1 o'clock, because the cell is underground, and there is no light, there is no one to see. We just barely hear the people outside, and the call for prayer. So overall, this experience, it was like very compounded, and very like has layers inside itself. And I am interested in understanding the experience, not from a political aspect, because political aspect would work as for me, would work as if it's not political. I do not use the experience politically. I just put the politics and the political side of it under like the scrutiny, under just explaining, understanding it, because actually political narratives also marginalize themselves. Like you will find the narrative of the left, and the narrative of the Muslim Brotherhood, and the narrative of the Shi'in. You'll find multiple narratives, and they not necessarily together. And I think everyone has his own narrative, or this how it should be in prison. And also narrative for prison doesn't make any sense inside the prison, because it needs to be outside the prison to tell about the prison. So the narrative works also for the post side of prison. And I think this is what I'm interested in, and understanding the experience, and writing about it from actually as if it's like a phenomena that happens and works within the society, which not only someone was suffering in the prison. Okay, I was suffering. If anyone in Egypt, in the US, in anywhere, they will suffer, and they will explain, they will tell the same things, because we are like we are arrested, and we are living in 4 walls, and those 4 walls has the same things everywhere, the same smell of time, and boringness, and the same circumstances. However, politically could be different, but no one has like talk about the prison as a phenomena that has, what does it mean actually, the prison? What does it mean itself, and the very nuances and the very complicated life inside the prison, because we are all together. We have 25 person in a cell, and everyone has his own desire, has no privacy. What does it mean, privacy in prison, and all of this question? And I think this, like, this is for now, and if you have any questions, I will be delighted to answer. And now I might just give it to Sherine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Duke Libraries and Duke University, for having us here, and being able to present Mohsen's work to you is a real honor. We met at a prison literature workshop, a Zoom prisoner workshop literature, which one of our friends was conducting while Mohsen was in Cairo and I was in Montreal. And, you know, it was COVID, and everything was online, and I fell in love with his poetry. And I asked him if afterwards, if he had a translator, and he told me, no, you know, I never thought about translating. And I told him, you know, it's very unique what you've done. I've never heard anything like that. And I'm very much immersed in the literary community in Montreal and in Cairo. I had started a literary journal after the revolution called Rowayat, which is now online. And so I read all the time, and I really love poetry, and especially Mohsen's poetry is Egyptian vernacular poetry. And I love also English poetry, but like the Egyptian vernacular poetry hits me hard, especially like during the revolution. A lot of our chants were Egyptian poetry. And so I asked him, you know, and he said, yeah, sure. You know, he's, as you can tell, he's so easygoing, and I started translating, and one of our friends who runs Arab Lit Quarterly emailed me and told me, oh, I heard you're translating Mohsen's poetry because he won 2 literary prizes in Egypt, the Cairo International Book Fair Prize, and for his poetry collection in Arabic, and the Sawiris Prize for Literature by the Sawiris Foundation. And so it was getting a buzz. And so she said, oh, I heard you're translating. I'd like to publish, you know, these 2 poems. And I told her, sure, you know, and I worked on them. And that's when our friendship like really started, which was really wonderful. And I'd like voice note Mohsen and be like struggling, because it's so hard there's so much nuance and repetition in Arabic, and it's hard to convey in English. And not to be apologetic about the translation, but at the same time, I want it to be beautiful within the English language frameworks. And so you know, I would talk and I would tell him, okay, I'm trying to do this. And it was really, our friendship really grew since then. And then our guardian angel over here, Nina Camberos, found us online. And here we are with this collection, presenting it to you in the US, which is all a bit, you know, very serendipitous and lovely to be after such an experience. And a lot of us in the Arab world have multiple traumas from, you know, since the revolution until now. And for me, it was during COVID, I put my own work aside and really dedicated all my time to Mohsen and the beauty he found in prison, and the community he found in prison was so, you know, it was almost healing during COVID, when everyone else was complaining about being locked in you know, their homes with TV and internet and all these facilities, and being so loud about it, and being so, and here was someone who continued to see beauty and friendship and love within, you know, the darkest places that, you know, one can imagine. So, yeah, so it was a gift, really, his work to me during COVID. And I was going through also a difficult time. And so it was really a pleasure to translate. And yeah, it's really a pleasure to be here, I think, among you. And I think we can open up for questions and for it to be a bit more interactive.
So. Yeah.
Well, what's really interesting is that literary, so Mohsen, like I said, won this, and I'll let him tell you this story later. He won the Cairo International Book Fair prize, which is a government prize, and I'll let you tell this story. And you can continue, and then I'll continue with
Yeah, I actually had this fear after the release. I had this fear actually of, because I wrote most of the poems in the prison, and I wanted to publish them, but before actually I went out, I was smuggling a phone, and there was like Amin Haddad, the poet that I liked for my entire life, and his father, Fuad Haddad. I found him in social media, and he commented in a friend of mine, a mutual friend, and he said he was like who was publishing and posting a poem for me, and he said, "Wow, I wanna more poems from Mohsen." And he knew that I am in prison, and then my friend put more in the comments. And then I saw his reaction in every poem that my friend commented, and then I was following him before, but now he sent me ad, and like ad friend, and we become friends. We never talk until I got out, and then he talked with me, and then took the book and had a conversation with me, and he invited me to his house, and he published it in Egypt. And then I asked him, would it be safe actually to publish it in Egypt after release? And he said, well, don't worry, if like as long as we publish it, like if anything happened, it will be after publication, so don't worry. And then I told her, thank you for reassuring me. It's just, it's just I can't, I don't know what to say, but yeah. And then it was published, and the Egyptian publisher actually told me that she has a problem with the police because it's very like progressive, alternative publisher in Egypt, and the police regularly go there, and some of the policemen go and just check the titles. They don't read, but they check the title. And then I mean, Haddad, the poet, told me that we have to choose a title that is not obvious, and she said me that she told me the same. And then we choose like this title, and then I just like
now tell them.
yeah, and then I was sleeping that day, and then during the day I was sleeping for a while, and then I woke up with like a call from someone, and he told me, hello, is that Mohsen Mohamed? I said yes. He said, well, congratulations, you won the Best Book in Cairo International Book Fair for poetry, and you have to come this Wednesday with your family, your mother, your father, and your friends, and then the Minister of Culture will give you the prize. And then I told him, really, excuse me? He said, yes. I actually didn't apply for this prize. My publisher did, and then I told her, "Are you sure it's me?" And he said, "Yes. Your name is Mohsen Mohamed, and your book's name is Mafīsh, raqam, bīrudd." I said, "Yes." And then he said, "Yeah, just send me a copy for your ID, and come this Sunday, Wednesday early, because we arrange things. And also there is so many policemen around the Minister of Culture, because like, and then yeah, that like it's so sarcastic. Like the more than ironically that the CC's picture was in the background behind us, and even the my photo now with my picture with receiving the award, like CC is like a part of it. And then and then she told me that it's
Thank you.
congratulations, Habibi. We take the prize, and I then went to sit next to my mother, actually. And then some journalists were just coming by, and she told me, can I ask you some question? I said, of course. The first question I couldn't answer, because she told me, what is the subject of your book? So, and this journalist works with the government channel and television. And then I just said like random things, and then and then
yeah.
and then I just like escaped it, and then get it over, and walked away with my family. It was really strange, and I didn't expect or imagine. But now after this, I knew, because they demonstrate, and they told who was the committee, and now I knew the committee. They
I'll
yeah,
come
go
in
ahead.
here. So this sort of relates to what Nina was asking about the literary situation in Egypt, and so within the authoritarian governments, there are pockets of resistance. So even a government prize, even if government officials won't read and policemen won't read, but the people on the committee read and give prizes to resistant literature. So there are pockets of resistance within the regime, always. It's never 100% absolute power. As much as they would like us, as many pictures as they would, of dictators that we can have on Cairo, the resistance is there. It's in the air, it's in the pockets, it's in all these little places. And so, and Mohsen is a, perfect example that he got this within. So, and literature in Egypt has always been resistant, which is, it's been our vehicle for resistance. Movies and novels and poetry and song, it's been our, they call it our soft power. And it's something that resistant adab al-muqawma, which Ghassem Kanafani coined in 1969. And it's really important because it creates community, from the diaspora to Egypt to the US. And it builds friendships, and it's able to, because we all feel the same pain and the same repression and oppression that authoritarian regimes have. And, as much as there is resistance within authoritarian regimes, there's also resistance within democratic regimes too. And I know that so many of you within the US fight for your rights in different aspects too. So yeah, and poetry is a beautiful vehicle for that. And it sort of goes under the radar because they don't really read, do they?
Yeah. Thank you.
Did the fact that you were writing poetry in prison produce an outlook that you think may have been different if you were writing prose or writing song or something else? The fact that poetry was your medium.
Well, I think whatever, like even if prose, I when I say poetry, I don't mean the production. I mean the the feeling. I mean something like beyond the production itself. It's like in the process of making the poem and poetry, like way of thinking, like this state of mind. It could be like prose, it could be poetry, it could be song, it could be just like a paint, or like these feelings that takes me above the hard situation that I live in.
Tell them about the chanting in the poetry.
Yeah.
in the Rowayat.
Oh yeah. There was like in the prison there was
Ritual.
ritual, and everyone could go at night suddenly and take the bar, behind the bar, and recite poetry or sing, and then all the wards just listen, and all the building listens to them. And also what's interesting is even the criminals, because we are separated from the criminals as politicals, but they still live in the same building, half of the building, the other half of the building. So we're separated with them and living in the living cell, but in the bigger building, we are with them. We just like touch them sometimes and see them. And then they have very different kind of poems that also need to be like studied and need to be taken out of the prison, because it has a very specific form of poetry, which is very representative for their life and for their characters, and they all do the same thing with the poetry, with the poem. They say it like عنبر كله يسمع حتى الحديد يسمع. It has to start like this, which means all words listen, and even the iron should listen, and then even the bars should listen, and then they start with numbers, like something numbers الأولى and a specific form, and then الثانية the second with a specific form, and then I have this kind of poem, which actually was very like surprising. Some people, they represent themselves. They don't necessarily read or write, but they just like represent themselves very surprisingly, and those things could be like could be like focus on. We can focus on, and we can focus on the things and see as even prison archive, for example, or as someone who was in the prison. It's beautiful. Someone was in the prison and he wrote the things, and he was reciting it for the others. So, yeah.
First of all, I thank you for being here, and I'm hoping that before we leave, you will read some of your poetry to us. I do have a question. In listening to the two of you speak about Mohsen's experience and becoming poetic, if I may put it that way, I also sense a difference of perspective, right? From Sherine, I hear a kind of a covering narration under some kind of banner of resistance, which sounds to me political. But what Mohsen was saying earlier was that he did not think of his experience or write about it in explicit political terms because that was a different layer. And so I want to explore that fissure, if I may. I'm thinking of the Italian word resistenza, which has a different connotation than the English resistance. In the English, it's more direct, more object-oriented. You push back against something, right? Whereas in Italian, it also can have simply the sense of withstanding something, surviving something, and coping with something in a way that allows you to survive and not be defeated. So I was wondering if Mohsen had felt any change in his attitude toward his time in prison since he got out. Is there any kind of rethinking about your experience that has allowed you to deal with the political that perhaps wasn't germane or accessible to you while you were in prison?
Yeah, I think resistance is before to be political is existential. Like if you are in a situation, a hard situation, facing any bigger power than you, then you have to resist it. This is existential more than political. And if it's used as political, it's fine, because political is already part of the experience, is the part of the existential. So I do not have any problem with the political aspect, but I am focused on the existential aspect of it, because this is the main thing for me. And politicals, some people might do it, it's fine, but for me, I prefer, I find myself in the existential aspect of the experience. This is the other part of the question. The second part is was about I think was the second part of the question, I think, was remind me, please.
It wasn't second.
Yeah, the second part, yeah, I remember now. The renewing. Yeah, I think I always think about the experience because it's very intimate to me, and I think my perspective of understanding things always changes of the prison. Like the moment I go out of the prison, I had this like these emotions of, and the very huge life world that I live, that I constitute a life world inside the prison, and everyone has a different, every simple thing in life has different value to me. Like the radio, that I had like very long relation with it, and I loved it, and now it has no value when I come out. And this is different when I go out of prison. And I even saw some people, when they're packing to go out, they took the radios, while actually it doesn't have any value or meaning outside. But they cannot just leave it for other people who might really need it. They took it because they have relation with it. So I think the first, when I go out of prison, I was just like surprised, and the more it's like as if this is the wall of the prison, and I just go out of the prison, and then when I look back, I see only one point of the wall, and the more I go, the more I see the wall is smaller, and I understand more about it. And I think, yeah, and I think my perspective changes, and I always renew and rethink about it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, and for me as a feminist, the personal is political, right? So for me, and I think what Mohsen also was talking about, especially in Egyptian literature, like that narratives are not the fact that they're not political in themselves, but that the author would tweak it for a certain ideology, or an Islamist ideology, or for a liberal, or for a leftist ideology. So in that sense, it's not political. He's not writing within an ideology. He's writing from the humane side and the community side and the friendships and the bonds. And I think that sort of maybe clarifies a bit.
Thanks for coming. That presentation was fantastic. And I think God's been good to you, because you don't look like you spent 5 minutes in a prison at all. So I just want to congratulate you and your work that you've done. But what I would like to ask is, was there any prisoners there or after that was inspired by your work and maybe reached out to you?
Yeah, actually, one of the like the greatest thing that happened to me, that I really had this feeling. I like in the prison, we we have this connection. We go from a prison, from a city to another for different reasons. And one day I went from Mansoura prison to Shbin al-Qom, which is like another city. And I found that this connection for like students and people are, they love poetry and they even memorize it and they write it down. And then I found some people recite my poems in the cell that I was inside there. This was about prison, and then they used to have every like Thursday they like a poetry event in the cell, and then I found that they actually recited one of them recited my poem. That was great.
Hi, I've heard a lot of stories from Egyptian prisoners. They're very similar to yours, and your arrest clearly was very arbitrary. But you haven't told the story of how you got released. And my concern is that these releases of people like you seem to be just as arbitrary as your arrest, which makes the effort to try to get people out of jail so difficult because there's no buttons to push. I was wondering if you have any insight as to how you got out.
Yeah, I think the whole journey was like absurd, and from the beginning to the end, from the beginning until the Minister of Culture gave me the award. But how how actually I got released? I was sentenced by 5 years, and I had the right to contradict the judge. Appeal, yeah. And then I was waiting for the appeal since like the first year. I was sentenced by 5 years, and from the second year until the fifth, I was actually waiting for the appeal. And then it comes in my 59th month, after spending 59 months in the prison. And there was like there was only 1 month to continue the 5 years. And then they just got me, okay, you now go home, and your sentence is just abolished now, and you will be rejudged again from the higher court. And then I said, okay, well, but I was like, only 1 month left. And then I went, and that was actually annoying because it was only one month, and then I would be home. But now they wanna take me every 2 months, for example, to the court and put me inside the small cell in the court to just renew my judge. And then after a few months, I did this with the new court, and then they gave me 3 years. So they owe me 2 years now, or I don't know. Yeah, it was like they reduced that to 2 years after spending. It was absurd, like from the beginning to the end, and then after that, even I had like two years just went like this. The secret police in Egypt used to call me every week after release, and for just like nothing, to tell them who I am and when I was born, and who is my father and who's my life, what my life looks like, and all of this. And after this, it was like from 1 month until I traveled to the UK. But yeah, it was terrifying because you just go to them, you don't know you don't have any expectation because you give yourself to them.
You didn't have to go to prison and spend 12 hours a day.
No. This is because this is like is part of the sentence. It's legal. But what they used to do with me is absolutely illegal.
And that's why they call it the elastic prison, right? They let you out whenever they want, and they keep track of you even when you're out, and you can go to one of these meetings and they decide not to let you go home, depending on what you say. Have you been doing suspicious activity? There's a question here. Thank you. Oh, we do have one more.
We do a recitation.
Yes.
Sure. So would
So
you like to recite in Arabic?
Yeah.
Sure. First in Arabic and then.
Sean, we need your book. Yeah.
Sure. Would you actually
تعمل إنه
I can do like الضلمة جوه أشهد.
اللي قريتها امبارح.
Yeah, I know a different one.
Do a different one.
Yeah,
هيدا.
I think I don't need that.
طب قول لي هاد عايزة
Darkness.
اوكي.
الدنيا وقت ما ليلت أنا قمت لقيت النجف معرفش إيه اختلف في الضلمة بره البيت لكني فجأة لقيت العتمة جوه أشد من عتمة الشارع. أنا كنت راجع يومها متأخر بعد ما هما اتفرقوا تلاتات. كان في حاجات فيا بتتبعتر معرفش ليه الليلة دي بالذات كان في حاجات جوايا بتغمق. كان شرط نتفرق عشان تظهر. كان شرط أرجع يومها متأخر وارمي السلام على أبويا ما يردش. كان شرط أبكي بحرقة ومحدش يفتح لي حضنه وأختلس ضمه. كان شرط تبقي ميتة يما فاكفر بحضن الدنيا ولما وأقول لنفسي الدنيا دي عامة كافرة بنورها ودنيا كذابة. أنا كنت لمبة جريئة وسابة صبحت في ليل المجتمع طافية ونقدت حتى هبقى بالعافية آية حياتهم ضلمة وكآبة. الضلمة فيا غرف سكناني وسكنها هي جرابي وأنا في غمدي سكنها مسكينة جاية تنام في حضن مسكنها نخفي في بعض آلام منفعش تسكنها نزهد في دنيا الناس يموتوا مسكنها. تلازمني دايما بره أو جوه تحلف لي إني شبهها من جوه فاحلف معاها إني مش راجع وإني كفرت بملة الشارع وبدين بينشد صبح مش طالع وإني كفرت بالمجموع وأمنت بالعزلة. وتقولي سجنك مش حيطان ولا سور بل زيف وكدب النور تحته البشر دايما يكونوا مش واضحين. أنا سجني مش زنازين بل ناس وبني آدمين خلق وحياة واقفين مني وقوف الند. وأنا عمري ما كنت اجتماعي بجد كل ما أحب الناس بالجملة أكرههم على عكس فرد بفرد. ولحد يوم ما رجعت متأخر أنا حد سبته ما كانش مستني. أنا كنت قاعد وحدي وبدخن بحسبها حسبة حيطة وتأني بحسبها حسبة عبيطة وكأني الدنيا ماشي بشمعة على كتفي. أنا قدت سقفي وسقفها مطفي. كان نفسي تفهمني الحياة ونفسي تديني فرصة وتنتظر خلفي فأوطي أفك كلبشها الخلفي. ولحد يوم ما انطفى آخر شعاع فيها كان لسه ليها وميض جوايا مش مطفي. Thank you.
The darkness inside is bleaker. It was nighttime, so I lit the lamps. I don't know what transpired in the darkness out there, but I suddenly found the gloom inside more murky than the shadows of the street. I had gotten home late that day after the others split up into groups of 3. There were things unraveling inside me. I don't know why it was on this particular night, but things inside me were darkening. And for them to lift, we had to part. I had to be late reaching home, get a stony response after greeting my father, cry bitterly with no one to hold me, and stolen closeness. But oh, did she really have to die to make me disbelieve in the world's embrace and its warm gatherings? I tell myself that this world in general disbelieves in her own light. But double-crossing world, I was a bright blazing bulb, extinguished in your night. If I ever light again, I will barely dispel darkness and dejection. Darkness lives and rooms within me. and I move into them myself. My despair can fit into a pouch. It's there I live. The poor one wants to sleep, curled up in another's misery. We hide in each other's pain, in what we can't be soothed away. We are detached from a world prized by many who die clinging to it. She's always needed, in or out. She swears that I resemble her within. Then I swear I'm not coming back, that I had no faith in the street's creed, or a religion that proclaims morning won't rise, that as an individual, I disavowed the group. I believed in reclusiveness. She tells that my prison is not walls or gates, but falsehood and illusory lights, that under them, people are always unclear. My prison isn't cells, it's creatures, human beings, all of life opposing me. And seriously, I have never been social. Each time I love people in bulk, I end up hating them. The opposite happens with one person at a time. At least it did before I disappeared. My dreams could still crack the ceiling until that day I came back late when no one was waiting for me. I was sitting alone, smoking, pondering cautiously, envisioning wildly, as if I could walk this world with a candle balanced on my shoulder. I turned on the lights, but hers remained unlit. I wished that life would understand me. I wished it would give me a chance and wait behind me while I crouched down to unlock her handcuffs. Until that day, when her final light went out, there was still a glimmer of a flash within me that remained lit.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.